Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Very Biased Opinions. You thought we were done with Oxford United content for the year, but no, hell no, we're never done talking about this season. I'm once again joined by my brother. Robert, say hello to the public.
Hello, public.
How are you doing?
Not bad, thanks. Not bad. Pretty
All
good.
right, I didn't want your life story. That's fine. But what we're here to do today is to do some player rankings based on doing a tier list, because that's apparently what all the cool and trendy YouTubers are doing, and if I'm nothing if not cool, trendy, and hip. So I've devised my own scale. We're not going to do every single person that pulled on an Oxford shirt this season, like unfortunately young Golding, O'Donker, Gatlin O'Donker. Dendoncker plays for Wolves. That's a different person altogether. Yeah, so I've only put in just a few, well, most of the players that played. I've put in Karl Robinson in there as well. And as you can see, if you look on the mighty screen now, you can see I've got a few different tiers. Excellent, a bit better than good, bang average, if I can talk, bit of a stinker, terrible, please leave, and an unfair to grade, just if obviously, you know, someone who's maybe not done enough or been injured for a long time, and we just think, you know, it's not really fair to grade their season's work this time around. Probably I can't maybe think anybody's going to be in there, but never know. You never know. We'll have a little bit of a discussion about each one. Hopefully it won't drag on as long as the last season review video did. But if you want to see that mammoth season review video, you can see that on. You'll just click on the link in the corner there, and you can see that video right now. But Robert, how do you feel? You were completely scathing of the club last time out, saying that Robinson out, Tiger out, don't want a new state. You want to stay at the Kassam. How do you feel now?
Pretty much the same, to be honest with you. Yeah, I stand by my comments I don't remember making.
And just quickly, because I don't live in Oxfordshire, how have the new local government or new council, how is that going to affect or may affect anything to do with the stadium?
The local council now seems to be made up of the Greens and Lib Dems, who were lukewarm to the idea of a stadium.
I thought Greens would be like completely against it.
I think on their literature, they didn't want to put we're against a football stadium in the sense that they don't want to alienate voters. I can't imagine they particularly enthused about the idea, but we shall see.
Yeah,
I can't imagine it's going to be caused too much of a problem, though.
Okay, I think we're going to start this one off then. So we'll try and run through the squad, obviously starting from the back, starting with the last line of defence, and starting with number 1, Jack Stephens. Robert, it's not been the best season for Oxford United goalkeepers. So where would you put old Jackie boy?
I would put Jack as just one below average, I would say. Not been the best season.
Okay, so you're going to put Jack in a bit of a stinker. Remember, he has had injury problems. He did have glandular fever. He was out for a long time.
I like Jack Stephens, and I want him to stay at the club, and I hope next season he goes on to be better. But if we're judging it purely on this season, he's not had the best season.
Okay, I concur with that. I think that I don't think he's improved as a goalkeeper this time round, and I don't think he's as you touched on in the last video, there's been far too many goals that have gone in from distance.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's particularly commanding goalkeeper or anything like that, but still a good shot stopper. But unfortunately, Jack, you are in there. Next, and this is a wonderful, lovely picture of him, Simon Eastwood.
Is it?
Simon Eastwood. It's a really old picture of him, looking probably the most ugly he's ever looked.
He looks about 12.
Yeah, but it is Simon Eastwood. He obviously had to come into the side. I think he played 14 games in total.
Yeah.
Probably kept as many clean sheets as Jack Stephens did. And I don't really think there's much change between the two.
I almost think there's not much point in. He hardly played enough games to judge him, really. I mean, so I would either
he played 14 games.
I mean, I would possibly put him in there. Please leave the club, which I feel.
These are hot takes.
I don't.
Hot
Again,
takes.
I like Simon Eastwood, and but I don't quite understand what's happened this season, because going back to the start of the pre-season when he was given the contract, I was debating with you about that at the time, and I was saying I don't see why we kept him, but he came in and I thought he did okay when Stevens was out with glandular fever, but when Stevens was having a bad run of form, Robinson wasn't picking him. You know, we picked him for a little bit and then put Jack Stevens back in goal with a very cryptic, "Oh, I have my reasons for doing so, but I'm not going to tell you what they are" type comment. But
Okay.
I would put him in there because I think for his own sake, he'd be better off going to find a different club and make it the
This
fresh
isn't.
start.
You don't have to be. You don't have to say for his own sake. This is purely on what you would like. It doesn't really matter what the player thinks. I don't think Simon Eastwood's going to watch this video.
Hi,
And
Simon.
if he does, once again, I'll put your address at the end of the video. But right,
I'll stick by it. Leave the club.
okay. I think that when you look at the keeper situation, one of the things people have said is next season, if we want to progress, we need to bring in a really good goalkeeper.
Yeah.
In order for that to happen, one of these two goalkeepers does need to leave. He's not going to spend money on another keeper while we've got Stevens and while we've got Eastwood. However, I am going to upgrade him to the same level as Jack Stevens, because I think they've pretty much had very underwhelming seasons, bit of a stinker. If Eastwood was to leave, I wouldn't be too upset, although he has been a great servant to the club. The next one is our bit of a red herring. He is Connal Trueman, Robert. Connal Trueman. One game, one clean sheet against a side who's got promoted. I do not care what you have to say about Connal Trueman. He gets an excellent in my book. How about that?
Your list. You go for it. It's your channel.
That's obviously a little bit of a joke, that one, but that's yeah, I mean, I just
Well,
put
fair
it.
play to the lad. You know,
People would have even forgotten he played. But thank you, Connal. 100%. Never conceded a goal in an Oxford United shirt. I hope he never comes back just so he can keep that proud.
retire now, Connal.
Next, we come into the defenders and we start with Mr. Oxford United himself, Sam Shamlong.
Yeah, bang average, I'd say.
I completely agree. I was going to put Sam Long in the bang average one. Yeah, I don't think he's had. Compared to last season, I don't think he's improved. Again, it's been difficult for the defence, and again, Long's been chopped and changed around with who's in the back line and where he plays in the back line. But he remains a solid part of the Oxford squad.
He has played right back. I think he even played left back at some point. He's played centre mid. He's been midfield. They've put him in sort of centre half. So he's been mucked around a little bit this season. It's not been his greatest season, but I think he's been fine. So bang average seems fair.
Next season, if we think Oxford are going to line up in a 3-5-2, would Long be one of those centre backs, or is it going to be the fact now that Long might have to just be a bench player?
That's a tough one because I like Sam Long, but I was thinking he's not a wing back, and you just feel like saying with a centre half. If you had I would like to see him start as a centre half. Maybe this isn't why I'd make a bad manager, because I'm too sentimental. I couldn't maybe make the ruthless choice.
I mean, next season, if Robert was in charge, it would be Matt Elliott straight back in that central defence.
Yeah, I'll go along
Yeah,
with that.
can't argue with that. I don't think
What about Steve Foster? Can I get Steve Foster back as well?
Headband and all. Okay, so I think we agree with that. Next one is going to be Steve Seddon. Seddon had a bit of a mixed bag, didn't it? It's fair to say it started well and kind of got worse as longer the season went on. Played 35 games, scored 2 goals, 6 assists, which isn't bad. I can't even remember who he scored his second goal against. It must have been a cup, maybe. I don't know.
Can't remember, but
That Gillingham get? No, I don't know. Anyway, so, but where would you put old Seds because I'm thinking I'm going to put him in the bang average thing as well.
I was going to put him below bang average, to be honest with you.
But I think that again, this is a bit of a recency bias, isn't it? I think his first half of the season was pretty good, and I think his second half of the season wasn't great. So I think next season as well, he might be, if we're going to do wing backs, he might be a useful player.
Yeah.
Not that matters to how he did this season, of course.
I think that he just disappeared for so long in the season. There were times when we were very short, in the back, and we were putting square pegs into round holes, and there's no sign of Seddon at all. And that was very odd. But I personally would like. I mean, I'd like to see him give him a second chance at the club because when he has shown a bit of promise going forward. But I personally thought I would have put him below bang average just because I thought he's not had an amazing season, but you can make he's probably just on the borderline, isn't he?
I will let you have that one. You convinced me. I'll let you have I'll let you. Yeah. I mean, usually it's better to have it the other way around, isn't it? Start slow and get better rather than start great and fizzle out.
Yeah.
Right. Now we come to which I think we'll both agree has been one of the players of the season, and that is old Lukey boy, Luke McNally.
Yeah.
The old Irish Maldini, as he's known.
I would put him just below old Connor at the top.
Okay, so Karl Trueman is still the fairy on top of this tree. But Luke McNally is a bit better than good. He has had, for his first season as a professional footballer, he's had a remarkable year, really. Find his stats down here.
4 goals,
somewhere.
1
4
assist.
goals, 1 assist, and has just generally been a very solid defender. Looks very comfortable with the ball at his feet. I think he's been. I think that we really hope that he is going to be an Oxford player next season and improves in our back line for another year at least.
I think he's probably a bit too soon for him to go. I can understand maybe people sniffing around, but he's only really played half a season at the club. You kind of feel like, again, if this is reaches it, if he's still with us next season, I reckon I could see someone going in for him then. But at this stage, hopefully it's a bit too early for him to make a move. But he looks really good. You really sort of for our defensive problems, I don't think many of them down to Luke McNally.
No, I mean, and if anything was, it's just maybe a little is the lack of experience, which you expect, which is going to be, isn't it? Because he's only played 30 professional games, so he's not going to be as seasoned. But we move on to the captain himself, and that is Elliott Moore, is the next one there, and I'm torn between bang average and a bit better than good. I feel that there needs to be another rating in the middle, which should just be called Elliott Moore.
I sort of feel like if you could try and sort of balance him on the line a little bit, because I agree with you. I personally think Elliott Moore's been a bit better than good, to be honest with you. I think he's had a good season, Elliott Moore. I was looking at his stats. I know he's only got 1 goal and for the season, but I think he's had a good solid. We've missed him when he hasn't been there.
Yep.
He is a good centre half at our level. I am perfectly happy with Elliott Moore. I think he's had a decent season.
Yeah, I would say with Elliott Moore, and what I think he had a good season is a lot of the goals we've conceded have not come from set pieces or anything like that. A lot of the goals come from like Oxford not picking up the ball from second play or second phases not being dealt with by other players. So I think that's been a strong area of Oxford's game actually, is defending crosses into the box. And I think Elliott Moore's a big part of that. I think he'd have liked to have scored more goals, but centre backs there to do a defensive job more than the goals are obviously a bonus. But I think we can both agree he's had a good season, and I hope he stays in an Oxford shirt for another few years. Next is a guy we got in on loan in January. It is Ciaron Brown.
Same level. He's had an absolute cracking end to the season. He really looks a fine player.
I'm going to put Ciaron Brown in excellent.
Yeah, I'd go along. Yeah,
I think his performances. He hasn't. I mean, again, he hasn't played a huge amount, but the games he's played, he's looked great, and he's looked better the longer he's got on. And I think most people would be more than happy if he signed for Oxford next season. And just not much more we can say. He's been superb. Next has been one of the reasons why we didn't get promoted, Robert, one of the sole reasons why we didn't get promoted, according to the fans, is because of this guy going back to Blackpool. It is Jordan Thorniley.
I like Thorniley. Again, I would have him in the same level as the others, as Moore and McNally. I thought he was very good. He came in, he looked a real class act.
Can't argue with any of this. Yeah.
It'd be nice if we could get Jordan. If we could maybe, if Brannagan is on the way out, maybe that swap that make weight deal with Jordan Thorniley could be done again.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you kind of almost forget the good stuff that he did, but just a very solid centre half. And obviously, a lot of talk was about how much better Seddon was when you had Jordan Thorniley alongside him, and just didn't really make a lot of mistakes. Did get a red card. People forget about the red card he got against MK Dons, but that's kind of nitpicking.
Footballers pick up red cards on that. It happens.
No, only Gary Lineker didn't.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Cantona didn't.
No, Vinnie Jones didn't.
Vinnie Jones didn't. Yeah, good one. Next is, and I just wanted to see how many games he actually played. Next, it might be use of our final grade here. John Mousinho.
You can't judge Mousinho. I mean, I was trying to find him how many games he actually played.
Yeah, he played started one game and came off the bench for 5. I would say the majority of the games he probably came off the bench were cup games. I would say that he maybe just came on for the last couple of minutes of probably those games where we had a lot of COVID players out. But the game he did start was that Shrewsbury game, and he, we needed him. He stepped up and he did it. So fantastic. I think that Oxford are registering him as a player for next season, which seems a bit weird.
Why?
But I think I don't know. It seems like a bit of a waste. I think there's something to do with I think the club's being a bit kind to him because if he's a registered player, he can stay as a chairman of the PFA.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And I think obviously he'll just carry on with his coaching badges. But it does seem a bit of a waste of a player spot. But I think it is unfair to grade the Moose. But,
yeah. I like Moose though. I'm glad he's staying, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. I don't think there's much build-up we need to say about this one. Jamie Hanson.
Oh, poor Jamie Hanson. I'm just trying to. I mean, he's leaving anyway. He's gone. He's left the club now anyway. So that tells you the tier he should be put into. But he's barely played. I was frantically finding him. He hardly had a game this season. Just a handful of 1 or 2 games this season. Didn't achieve anything. Constantly out injured. He must absolutely rue the day he signed a contract for us.
Yeah, it's been bad from the start, hasn't it? We paid too much money for him. He's always been injury prone. We've never really seen what position would be a best position for him. And when he has got on the pitch, he seems like a bloody unlucky player as well. It seems like every deflection that hit off him would fall into someone's path and they would score. Every mistake he meant led to a goal. And I think he really only had one good game in an Oxford shirt, and that was that game against Rotherham. And this thumbnail of him making a sliding tackle block is probably one of the only good things he did in an Oxford shirt, which is a real shame. And I don't have anything against the guy, but he is a terrible please leave, and he has left, so we don't have to worry about that too much. But one guy who has been a bit of a weird one that we did sign him on is Anthony Forde, who is almost a bit of a forgotten man in this squad.
I almost feel like you can't grade him really. I mean, he scored a goal. He's set one up. He always looks a good player, yet he's never played. I mean,
Robert, if you were adamant that Connal Trueman's got to be graded, we have to grade Anthony Forde.
Bang average then. That's probably the fairest grade you can put him at.
He played 10 games, 3 off the. He started 10 games, 3 off the bench. I imagine a lot of those games were early season when we needed a right back or left back cover. 1 goal, 1 assist. I think he scored in the Gillingham game where we beat them 7-2.
Yeah.
But not only was he not used, but not used when we were struggling, and not used when we were stretched that much, and never used to bring on to influence a game that much. And so for me, I can't see why we've kept him on. He's a useful squad player, but if we're not going to bloody use him, what's the point of having him? And I'm actually going to put him in the terrible please leave.
I think terrible please leave is unfair because I like him. He's not terrible, but I do sort of feel like saying it feels a bit pointless him staying if he's not going to be used. I do agree your point. I like Anthony Forde and I think he's a good player and I think he should have been used more. But you just feel like it feels that he's not being used to the best of his ability, and you feel like saying, but that's totally down to Karl Robinson rather than him.
Terrible. Please leave. Right. Again, just like Jordan Thorniley, if we'd have had this man fit for the whole season, we would have won the league at a canter. It is Alex Rodriguez Gorrin.
Question, before we get started, is there a level we could put above excellent?
Well, I do like the fact you had to put your... I should have said God tier, shouldn't I? But I do like the fact you put your hand up to ask a question. Like, you know, was there anybody else here? Yes, the Pratt at the back. I'm tempted to put Alex Gorrin in the unfair to grade.
Yeah, he's barely played. I mean, he played a handful of matches.
He played 11 games.
Yeah, and was Alex Gorrin for those 11 games?
Yeah, and he didn't get any goals, any assists, which you don't expect him to do. Yeah. But he came off the bench a couple of times as well. But I think he was injured for so long, and he had such a bad injury, and you know that he would have played a hell of a lot more as the season went on. So it's difficult to judge him at the start and really put him in a grade. And I think that we're going to have to put him in there. But I think that we want him next season, don't we? We're looking.
Yeah, we do. We know he's got flaws. We know that, as you said yourself, he looks amazing, gets a booking, and then is on eggshells for the rest of the game. But I would definitely keep him in the squad, and we did miss him. If he'd been fit at the latter half of the season, we would have probably picked up a few more points.
I think that he made Kane a better player as well. I mean, obviously, because he did the shit that Kane was then asked to do, playing holding role player. But I think when you had Kane and you had Gorrin could it was very much like Gorrin could just win the tackle, pass to Herbie Kane, and Herbie Kane could then be a playmaker. So they suited, they kind of really helped each other. They made each other look better, really, because Gorrin's not the best passer in the world, to be fair.
No.
But, I think that we'll get to Kane in a bit, but we've got a couple more to go. I think it's pretty obvious what we're going to say for this one, but it's time for Cameron Brannagan.
Well, excellent. That's all we can say about Cameron Brannagan. I mean, this is probably be his last season at the club. I mean, I would be amazed if he's here.
Yeah. 41 games, 14 goals, 3 assists, the penalty machine that he is. And I think the one thing, I know at the start of the season you were a bit on the fence with Brannagan about how good is he overrated. And I always thought that the one thing that let him down was he needed to get more goals, get more assists, and he certainly bumped that up a lot with the goals. I think Brannagan's been such a great professional with the way, like, if there has been any doubt about him moving to another club, he's hidden that down well and just been totally just focused on his time at Oxford United, and I don't think any fans will begrudge him for leaving. And I think he's done a great job of, showing that he cares a lot about playing for Oxford United. Unlike the next guy we're going to talk about, the devil incarnate, Mark Sykes.
Ooh.
Ooh. Oh my God, this stupid fascination, this stupid world that we live in, where we're such babies as fans that we must be clapped at the end of the game, otherwise you are just like Hitler.
If you don't clap the fans at the end, you might as well go and spit in their face. That's basically it.
Here's the thing, right? He shouldn't do it, right?
Yeah.
It's not exactly hard for a player to go and clap the fans at the end, right? Even if you play crap, and I do get the token, but if fans expect it every time, then isn't the gesture a bit pointless?
Oh, it's one of those things in football that make absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. but some people set so much store by it. You know, they so quickly just sort of like, you know, start them angrily decrying someone for not actually sort of clapping them, and it makes no difference to me whatsoever. But
I think talking about Sykes on the pitch, and I'm going to probably put him higher than most people would probably think. But his season did tail off after Christmas when there were rumours about him leaving. His form has not been good in the second half. That good in the second half of the season. I don't question his commitment though. I think he did try hard every time he was on the pitch. But his numbers in the first half of the season were great. I mean, he ended up scoring. He played 36 games, 4 off the bench, 8 goals, 5 assists. It's a pretty good return, and he did score some pretty important goals and get some pretty important assists.
I think you've got to put him at the better than good category, because I think his stats show that, and I think the fact is he might have had a falling out with Karl. He might have had he may have had his head turns. Maybe he decided that he wants to go on there somewhere else. We don't know what's happened behind the scenes, but judging it purely on his stats, he's had a good season.
I would say that he should maybe take a leaf out of Cameron Brannagan's book of how to gracefully leave a football club and leave the fans happy. Because it wouldn't have been too much.
In the bridge behind him as he left was probably a bit of a bad move, but there you go.
But literally, I know I just talked about us being stupid babies, but if he would have just stayed out there and clapped some fans,
yeah,
there probably would have been like a bit of a. He probably would have played in that final game, against Doncaster, and probably would have got a decent send off. But instead of there's a lot of Oxford fans that don't really like him anyway. But I always quite like Matt Sykes, and we'll always remember him fondly in an Oxford shirt. But here is a guy who also polarised opinions and also kind of got worse the more the season went on. Herbert Kane.
Yeah, Kane. I mean,
Glenn Jacobs,
the mayor of Knoxville himself. Yes, 34 games, 1 off the bench, 6 assists. I mean, I think I would put him in having a bit of a stinker. It's not really his fault because he's been played out of position a lot.
Go and bang average.
Yeah, okay. I'm not too bothered by it. I mean, I think he's kind of like Kane. I think he's been played out of position, but I do sort of feel like at times he's not contributed an awful lot. So bang average, probably fair.
He's one of those players that I wouldn't be fussed if Oxford signed him or not.
No.
If we signed him, I thought, okay, good, he is a good player. If we didn't sign him, I thought, oh, well, you know, there's other players out there that can do similar jobs to Herbie Kane. I think he's a good footballer, and he's still a young man, but I think that I don't think he's quite as good as he thinks he is. And that, as a flabby 40-year-old, that is a very churlish thing for me to say.
You were an excellent player in your prime, and let no one tell you otherwise.
Yes, but luckily I played at such a shite level that everybody else only had one leg. So yeah, like the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. Yeah. So yeah, Herbie Kane. I mean, yeah.
Let's move on. Move on from Kane.
James Henry did some great stuff. Unfortunately, had some really bad injuries. Then came back. Then got his face smashed in against Fleetwood. Did score, but did do some great stuff. But I think he might be a bit unfair to grade.
It's kind of like the fact he's only played 17 times for a player as important to us as James Henry, and his stats are still quite good, 7 and 3. I actually, thinking about it, just reading that, I would say he's had a good season. By a very limited range, and only based on what he could achieve, he's had a good season.
Well, as in life, the older brother dictates what happens here. So I'll give you that again. Yeah, I mean, it's just there's a lot of the season obviously where he didn't play, but if you think back to the memories, some great hat trick against Lincoln, winner against Wednesday, winner against Doncaster. It's unfortunate we just didn't see enough of him this season, but hopefully all the injury problems will be behind him. We can see another good season for JMO next season. But we will move on, and it'll be interesting to see where you put this chap, Marcus McGuane. McGuane.
Down. Let's keep going down. I mean, I would say if McGuane, I'm just trying to find his stats. Here we go. 12 appearances, 18 off the bench, no goals, 1 assist. And I'm sorry, I think he's had a bit of a stinker.
Yeah, I don't think you have to apologise for that. I think he'd probably admit it himself. I was expecting a lot more from Marcus McGuane this season. He hasn't had a season where he's really had a consistent run of games. But I hate the way. I think there's so much more potential in him. There's so much more to come. I hate the way he does one good thing and then he gets sort of like touched by a player and he sort of stops and looks around and waits for the referee to give a foul. He does it all the time. It's so bloody frustrating. You just think, just carry on running. What are you doing?
It's just that last game of the season, we were both watching him and we're just saying, this is a game for you to dominate. They were not going in for the tackle. He could have advanced about 25 yards out of goal before they got anywhere near him. And he didn't. He was just doing dainty little passes, the odd run forward. And you just sort of feel like you are obviously a very talented player, but you're not showing it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, stinker.
Yeah, I think he's got the potential to really be a bit of a boss of a midfielder, but he's really not showing it at the moment. But we move on to an obsession of wingers, a gluttony of wingers, if you like. What's the collective noun for a group of wingers? A Karl Robinson of wingers. Ryan Williams is the first one.
Yeah.
Bang average.
Bang average. I mean,
like him. I like Ryan Williams.
I like Ryan Williams. 22 appearances, 2 goals, 4 assists. Bang average.
I think that, again, I think he necessarily hasn't been used enough for his experience. I think he's very experienced and could have helped in a lot more games. And I think he plays with a good level of intensity as well, which helps. Like, he's a very, bit of a git of a player, isn't he?
Yeah. But I reckon this, in a way, the sheer glut of wingers we've had has worked against us.
Yeah.
Because there's not much for, slight spoiler alert, there's not much of a difference between the wingers that we have. So you're constantly sort of going like, Holland will play this week, Whyte will play next week, just constantly rotating them. They're not getting the game. And wingers are inconsistent. One day they'll do absolutely sod all, and the next week they'll create something magical. But they're not going to do that if they're sort of going to be playing one game in 4.
Yeah, a bit like Berahino last season. If anyone saw that Sheffield Wednesday game the other day, he was pretty poor. But if you show any of Oxford United goals from last season, you'd think he's the greatest player in the world. We move on to another one, and another one I think we're just probably going to stick him in the bang average thing. It's Nathan Holland.
Yeah, exactly the same reason. Literally copy and paste what we just said about Ryan Williams and shove him in there as well.
Now, as a lot of the podcasts out there that you listen to slate Holland and praise Whyte, and for me it's the other way round. I kind of like Holland more than Whyte.
I do not see that in the slightest.
I for me, I don't know. For me, I always think when he gets in the game, I think he's a really exciting player, and I think he takes people on, and he drives forward, and he has scored some good goals for us this season, but not done it enough. So I think no one would really argue with that, and no one would really argue if we put. Oh, I'm ahead of myself. I haven't got to the mighty man himself yet. But I will. Let's do him in there. Gavin Whyte. Let's jump ahead. Bang average.
Yeah, because like with you, I actually, before we even look at these stats, I would have had him had a bit of a stinker, because I keep thinking of all those missed one-on-ones that he has, where it's like great chance of Gavin Whyte hit the keeper, great chance of Gavin Whyte missed the post.
Yeah,
that's what's so frustrating.
Hit the when did he ever hit the keeper?
Well, yeah, fair point. Gavin Whyte he knocked it miles over the bar, But just having a quick look at the stats here. Nathan Holland.
A surge, a gaggle of ball boys are desperately trying to find the ball because Gavin Whyte volleyed it into some hedges.
Nathan Holland, 21 appearances, 14 off the bench, 5 goals, 5 assists. Bang average. Gavin Whyte, 26 appearances, 1 goal, 10 assists. Number one, I don't even remember Gavin Whyte getting 10 assists, but that's the only reason for me I would keep him at the bang average.
That's the thing as well. I think a lot of those assists came at that sort of like little purple patch we talked about in the first half of the season. If he'd have got some more goals though, if he'd have got up to like 6 or 7 goals, which he easily could have done, I think we'd be putting him in close to excellent. Really,
Yeah.
it's that lack of finishing that's really brought him down.
I think so, and to me, that's what I personally would not like Gavin Whyte to come back next season. I think we can do better. If Nathan Holland came back next season, I'd be quite happy to see Nathan Holland play because I think maybe not as a starter, but I think he's got more potential than Gavin Whyte. Gavin Whyte, I'm sorry, 2 or 3 years ago he was a fine player, but whatever he's done at Cardiff has messed up with him as a player.
He wasn't great at Hull. He wasn't great at Hull last season. No. But is it because he's Irish? Okay. He refused to answer that. Very, very council political of you there, Robert. But we move on. This is going to be an odd one. Billy Bodin.
I would put Billy Bodin as excellent.
Really?
I am really impressed with Billy Bodin. I want us to keep Billy Bodin. You know, all right, stats-wise, 14 appearances, 6 goals, 4 assists. He looks an absolutely top quality player for us at the moment. He is incredibly good on the ball. He puts some great set piece into the box. He can score goals and he also sets ones up. As far as I'm concerned, we should have played Billy Bodin more and we might have achieved more. But I would have Billy Bodin as excellent.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Unfortunately, it's my list, and I'm going to have him as terrible. Please, no, I'm not really. You sold me on that one. I'm quite happy with that. I think again, yeah, you've pretty highlighted everything there is to say about Billy Bodin, and I'll let you fan yourself while you think about him, and we'll go on to good job you can't see lower down, folks. When we move on to Joel Cooper.
That's the only fans version of this.
Who will certainly get rid of any erection. Anyway, all right, Joel Cooper, Robert.
Oh, blimey, Joel Cooper. Do you know, I'd actually forgotten all about him. I'm frantically trying to find the stats on Joel Cooper.
You don't need to. You don't need to find stats for Joel Cooper. He's not. He's had trouble. He's had trouble in his life since he moved over from Ireland, which hasn't been great. He's never been really settled. He never really pulled up any trees. And you have to really say he's done nothing and terrible. Please leave. Really, I mean, again, I just don't think we'll ever see him in an Oxford United shirt, and I don't think he's really done anything of note. Really,
I completely forgot the name Joel Cooper. I had no idea. I frankly, now you're saying him, I've remembered who he is. That's the complete non-event. You know, I mean, I don't know what's happened in the guy's life. I really hope he's okay. This move hasn't worked out for him. Maybe he can go back to Ireland and things might work out for him.
Yeah, I think he's still got another year to go, isn't he? So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if Oxford like a mutual consent termination.
Yeah, I would be surprised if that happens.
They can, maybe someone will come in and pick him up for free or something, or maybe we'll just season-long loan him back to League of Ireland. Marcus Browne.
You can't judge. He's only played 2 games. You know, he's got 1 goal, but I think you can't really judge him. He's not played enough.
I agree. But hopefully next season, injury problems will be behind him. And we saw in a brief glimpse what a quality player he is with that goal against Pompey alone. But we move on to another one who you may have forgotten. Daniel Adgington III.
Oh, Danny. I mean, you can stick him in the please leave because he's gone. But me and you both like Dan Agyei. And before the start of this season, we were more than willing to give him one last chance. And he just can't take it.
I was a defender of Dan Agyei all of last season.
Yeah.
I didn't. Unfortunately, I didn't see any improvement in him this season. No. And if anything, he regressed. And he desperately needs to go and play first team football at whatever level he can get at.
Is he at Accrington Stanley now?
He went to Crewe.
Crewe, that's it.
And he did play But obviously Crew's season wasn't great, but he needs to just play. And people will say, oh, he'll be amazing in League. I'm not sure he'll be amazing. I still think he needs a bit of time playing first team football and getting used to some things about how to be consistent for 90 minutes. But I think there's definitely a lot of potential in Agyei. But I don't think it's unfair to put him in that bracket that we put him in, and I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to put the next guy in there as well, Sam Winnall.
Nothing further to be said for Winnall. It's a shame because on paper he looks a fine player, but I think for Sam Winnall, it was that absolute shocking miss he made at the back end of the season.
Burton.
That was that one where he's virtually 6 yards out and he misses.
Yeah.
And you just think that was the point. I think everyone lost faith in him and then just same way.
I would say as well, nearly scored a very important goal against Morecambe, which the keeper produced like one of the most amazing saves you will ever see. But that miss was pretty shocking. And again, just a lot of potential in him when we signed him, but just never could stay fit and never really looked like a valid option, a valid replacement for Taylor in any way, shape or form. Unlike the next man, Sam Baldock.
Excellent. No, Sam Baldock. As we said in the video, if he'd stayed fit, we probably would have been in the playoffs.
Didn't play a lot. 4 games, 3 off the bench, but 4 goals in that time and 1 assist. But the goals were fantastic.
Yeah.
Like that little deft header against Burton at the start of the game, and just his movement was so good, and you really got the sense that if he'd have played every game down the back end of that season, you'd have thought we'd have been an absolute lock for the playoffs.
If he stayed fit, we would have probably finished about 4th or 5th easily.
Yeah.
Well.
2 to go, 2 to come. Right arm over the wicket, 2 to come. Matty Taylor.
I would say Matty Taylor, actually, I would just put him in the second level.
No, he's excellent for me. I don't care.
Okay. I would say
I think he scored a phenomenal amount of goals. 20 goals in the league is still an amazing achievement. Not many Oxford players do that. Yes, he does miss chances. Yes, there's sometimes you can be frustrated with his some people can be frustrated with his lack of movement or lack of energy. I don't see it. I think he's great. I think he's a match winner. He scored so many important goals for us. He's been ever reliable this season, and we've had no one else other than Baldock that we would think consistently stick the ball in the back of the net. So Matty, for me, excellent.
Yeah. I know I can't really argue with that. I mean, like I say, I think he's consistently been at the level of either very good or excellent. So, nothing further
and
to say.
That just brings us to the man himself, the gaffer, Don Robinson. Where would you put Anne Robinson's younger brother in this list?
Bang average.
Woo! Explain yourself.
I suppose in the sense that he hasn't had a bad season. I know we haven't failed. We failed to get to playoff place, but we still had we still scored plenty of goals. But there are still several flaws in that side which we've been talking about for a while, and they haven't been addressed. And in January, people were saying that we needed defensive cover, and he either couldn't or wouldn't get that defensive cover in there as well. And I would say he's been bang average. For Karl Robinson, which, if at the start of the season you would have said we probably would have finished around about where we did. So in that respect, I would say he's probably had an average season in that fall. He's done some things very well. We've been a very good attacking side. Off the field, he's done a lot of very good work as well. But on the pitch as well, I think there are still flaws in our side. He is the manager of the side. He's not addressed them. Bang average.
Do you know what? I think so as well. I think at the end of the day, we finished twice in the playoffs the last 2 seasons, and we didn't finish in the playoffs this time round, regardless of the strength of the league, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, I think that he's done a lot of good, but the balance of the side just wasn't quite right when we needed it to be at the crunch time of the season. And I think that it's a very close bang average to bit better than good, but maybe the wording of the tiers hasn't helped us there. But yeah, I think that we will stick Karl in the bang average spot. Okay. All right. That is the world set to right, folks. That is it. That is official. We have decreed it. Therefore, that is what the Oxford United players have been like this season. I am sure you will all have opinions on it. All 5 of you that watch this video, and 4 of them will be me, and 1 of them will be you, Robert. But I'm sure all of them will have opinions on that. Please
Don't agree
do
with us, Ian, because basically what we said is correct.
disable those comments. But yeah, look, if you have any comments on it, just put the gum down below. I'm sure there's some you're not going to agree with. Yeah, and just generally thanks for watching. Robert, just say goodbye to the good loving folk, and I will do the usual shenanigans.
Goodbye, folks.
Yeah, who knows what we'll be back with and what I'll be back with very soon. But as always, thanks for watching. Hit the like, hit subscribe. That helps me out a lot. But above all, again, thanks for watching, and we will see you very soon.